Who had a worse weekend? The Raiders or the No Kings protesters? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Good morning. It is great to be here at 6:05 on a Monday, a Victory Monday on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app as always. The Chiefs absolutely demolished the Raiders yesterday in a game where they pulled the starters by the end of the third quarter. 31-0 win. Mark was at the game. He almost hit the big parlay he gave you on Friday, but because it was such a blowout, the Chiefs pulled the starters early, and Rashee Rice needed what, Mark? 14 more yards to hit your big parlay?
Only 8 more yards.
I need your mic on. That would help.
Even 8 more yards.
8 more yards. Oh, my goodness.
So close.
Oh, this close, man. Every Friday morning at around 8:45, Mark gives us a Chiefs parlay in case you're not here later in the morning. And he hit last week. This week, he came up just short because the Chiefs were too good for their own good. That was the problem this week. Oh,
I was fine with them taking him out, though. Better safe than sorry.
Well, you know what? That's why you're a team player, Mark. You see the big picture, buddy. It's not just about getting you a big parlay win. It's about the big picture for the Chiefs, who are now 4-3 after absolute domination yesterday. My goodness. And if you didn't see this trick play the Chiefs pulled off, this was great. So if you're not a football fan, I was explaining this to Kate last night. I'll do it here in like 30 seconds. If you're not a football fan, the Chiefs are sitting there with a 4th and 1 in this game, first half. And normally they would go back there and they would punt the ball, right? And let the other team get the ball and try to take the ball down the field and score. The other thing you can do is obviously run a play on 4th down. So they decide what they're going to do is they're going to pretend like they're faking an actual play and then run the play itself. So basically what they were looking at here is, can we lull the Raiders into a place where they think we're not actually going to run this 4th down play, and we're just trying to draw them off sides? Because if the Raiders jump off sides, what happens? The Chiefs get an automatic first down, and they get to keep going. Well, Patrick Mahomes has this moment, and it was caught on TV yesterday, where he says, man, this never works, where you try to draw a team off sides, and nothing happens, and they don't budge. But what happened? He's basically acting. Mahomes says, this never works, and then he ends up running a play, and they get a first down.
Sorry. Mahomes says, Coach, it doesn't
there they go.
work.
They
He was
go
faking it.
There they
He
go.
got you.
You had given up on that one. You thought for sure it was a draw, didn't you?
The Andy Reid.
Draw him offside.
Unbelievable. Pete Carroll even knows this. We're going to make you think we're trying to draw you off sides, and then we're going to go ahead and take a downward punt. And then he goes, and Mahomes goes, gosh, it never works. It never stinking works.
There's Tony. Jim, it just never works. Oh, Jim, there he goes. Jim.
4th and 1, and Patrick throws a bomb. It was a big F-bomb, and they kind of were dancing around it.
That was so funny. A couple of F-bombs there where Mahomes is at the line of scrimmage. This never works, man. This never bleeping works, man. You couldn't hear that in the stadium, could you, yesterday, Mark?
No, that's what I was saying. Live, I was just like, all right, they went for it and they got it. That's awesome. So after the fact, I saw that, and that was crazy.
Classic.
That was so great.
I was with him. I mean, it's like he's reading my mind, because I saw the move. I saw Kelsey go back. I think it was Kelsey and then Gray. They did it twice, and nobody jumped, and he threw his hands out. And I'm with you, brother, preach to the choir. And all of a sudden, you could hear it. And Tony Romo was like, oh, sorry.
It was so good. Yesterday was a celebratory day at Arrowhead. The stadium was empty with like 5-6 minutes left in the 4th quarter because everyone just said, hey, nothing else to see here. Starters are out. We're going home. But, of course, Mark, he stayed for the whole thing,
And then since the parking lot cleared out a little bit, it only took about 20 minutes to get out.
Look at you,
it's
man.
Not bad.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Mark trying to squeeze every last minute out of having to go home with the 3 little kids. I know, Mark. It's okay, buddy. You had your day. You weren't going to leave that game early. I understand.
Exactly,
it's all right.
right.
It's all right, my man. It's all right. But, it's funny being out and about this weekend, how many people were asking about, hey, Pete, you go down to the No Kings protest this weekend? Hardy, har. It's like, no, I'd rather slip my wrists, okay? I was not going to go down to one of the dozen No Kings protests that were being had all over Kansas City. But I'll tell you what, the No Kings protesters I saw, they may have had a worse weekend than the Raiders did in this town. Man, it was not the cream of the crop. It just wasn't. I want to play some of what we heard from Fox 4 down at Mill Creek Park over the weekend.
The message behind No Kings, that the power belongs to the people in America.
It'll never be right with the kind of leadership that he's providing at this current time. It's important that we get out and that we let it be known, not just to the president, but to our representatives, Senator Hollis, Senator Schmid, and all the Republican House of Representatives.
I can't wait to have Senator Schmid on the phone next. Goodness gracious.
Classic. I love that stuff.
They drag him out of the nursing home, and then they're like, get me Senator Schmid on the line, please. Do we have a Senator Schmid around here? I talked to a Senator Eric Schmidt last week, double T, but I have not heard from a Senator Schmid yet. He may be a new member that I'm not aware of. But we got to get this Senator Schmid on the phone at some point today. We'll see what he's up to. My goodness gracious. That was just too much. That was too much, man. But those are the kind of characters you had down at Mill Creek Park. And some of you were sending me photos from like 95th and Metcalf over the weekend in Overland Park. And it was exactly what we told you it was going to be on Friday. It was about 24 boomers who clearly had nothing better to do with their time, figured they'd go have brunch and then make a couple of signs and go down to the street corner and, protest the orange man bad. And that was it. That was the extent of it. Yes, there were a lot of people at Mill Creek Park. It looked like there, I don't know, a couple thousand, whatever it might have been.
Yeah, but how many under 10?
Yeah.
Right? I saw grandkids. I'm like, you're taking your grandkids to this stuff? And the kids don't know what's going on. They're, just along for the walk in the park.
I know, but I agree. It's like, you're dragging the grandkids out to some of these things. It's just, that was embarrassing. You want to go down and do your thing, I suppose, that's obviously your right, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure a king would not allow that many people to protest him in cities all over the country. But, why let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? So you see some of these folks around Kansas City, and for the most part, it's what we expected. It changes absolutely nothing as we start day 20 of a government shutdown here in Kansas City and across the country. Doesn't mean a darn thing for anybody. It's back to business as usual. But if people got it off their chest, I'm happy for them. Here's the difference between, let's say, the No Kings protest and the Tea Party movement from 15 years ago now. The Tea Party movement was motivated by policy. It was motivated by a vision for the country that was based in an ideology and policy. What we saw on Saturday was basically fits from toddlers about Trump. That's it. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because I think that the Trump thing only gets you so far for so long until people are like, okay, what else do you have for me here? Is there something else that we can use and latch onto? And it's always like, no, it's just orange man bad. Okay, well, I get it. You don't like the guy, and maybe there are people out there who don't love him either. But at the same time, you got to have something more here. And they had a No Kings rally over the summer. They basically just did a 2.0 this time around. That's all it was.
It gets to be like the Monty Python movie where they're protesting the Romans. What have the Romans done for us lately? Well, they built the aqueducts. Well, yeah, but apart from the aqueducts, what have the Romans done for us? Well, the public education. Well, okay, that's a given. What has Trump done? Well, besides ending that war.
Yeah, besides all the things he's done that actually kind of work out pretty well for most American people.
Other than that.
913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Let's say hi to Mike on a Monday. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, I was at Shields Saturday, and they were all out over there, a few of them. They were all elderly. I didn't see anybody under 70, or very few people under 70. And the other thing was they were absolutely all white. We didn't see any African Americans there. We didn't even see any Hispanics or other Latinos. It was just a bunch of elderly white Johnson County Karens mostly, out there with silly signs that I don't think they even knew the meaning of.
Yeah. Well,
You know, it was
are you at all surprised? Because this is what we predicted on Friday.
No, it's a bunch of old hippies from the 60s, just like you said. You know, they want to relive Woodstock and, you know, all the causes that we wanted in the 60s that, you know, life's past, you know. Next thing you know, they're going to be protesting to bring disco back or something.
Thank you, Mike. They're going to be protesting to bring disco back. Oh, no. Please. We've had enough of that. Don't go there, please. No, don't do it.
That and leisure suit.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Happy Monday. Glad you're starting the week off with us on KCMO. Coming up, I got to update you on something involving a firing that took place in Kansas City that is highly controversial. And we have some exclusive audio that you have not heard anywhere in Kansas City media that we will get to as well this hour on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, the fight continues to reinstate a Blue Valley kindergarten teacher. Barb Hart is her name. After she was terminated for violating school policy. What did she do in one of the most ridiculous firings I've ever seen? This stemmed from an incident where the teacher was requested to come help a special needs student, which she has 25 years of experience doing in the Blue Valley schools. She picked up the special needs student. She moved the student to a safe part of her classroom, and she got fired. Why? Because she put her hands on the student. Well, now we have the family of the student making their voice heard as well. Fox 4 obtained a letter addressed to the school board. And you have, as we told you last week, the family supporting the teacher who was fired. The teacher who picked up their child and moved that special needs child into a safe space in her classroom. That family is backing the teacher. The letter reads in part here, "This is the student's first semester at kindergarten, and we are very grateful to have Mrs. Hart. She is very loving, caring, and a passionate person to her students. We can tell that from the details in her feedback, 25 years of teaching experience has shaped her to be one of a kind. To be frank, 25 years to any person means more than a job. She has loyalty, and she must love it strongly. I hope that Blue Valley School District takes it seriously to get Mrs. Hart back. It is easy to terminate an employee, but we need to look at the full picture. Nobody is perfect and can please everyone, but she tries her best to make everything work. A replacement can be found, but a good teacher is hard to get." There also is a change.org petition that now has 2,500 signatures as of last night supporting bringing back Barb Hart to the Blue Valley School District. And we'll share that change.org petition on our social media as well. So obviously, since the story broke last week and since she was fired last week at the Blue Valley School Board meeting, there has been outrage, not just in the Blue Valley School District, but across Kansas City. Because you have, of all the issues that exist in the public school system, and there are many of them, you still have really good teachers who go to work every day, oftentimes are underpaid and underappreciated, but do it for the right reasons. And Barb Hart was one of them. And now you have the family saying, we are glad that she was there to help our special needs kindergartner. And as someone who has a first grader and a future kindergartner come next year, you think about that age and how difficult it is for kids at 5, maybe 6 years old to walk into these buildings, be in this school by themselves 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day in some cases. Never mind if you have a special needs child and that child has a full-blown meltdown, and then a teacher of 25 years who has experience doing this, who is called into the situation, picks the child up, removes the child from the hallway, puts that child into her classroom, and gets fired for it. That is everything that people can't stand about the way that the public school system has become a bureaucratic nightmare. And on top of that, what you've got from what I've heard from people privately on the school board is many school board members knowing that this was the wrong decision, but doing it anyway because they were fearful of the administration. That's not how this is supposed to work. The school board is elected by you, the people. You want to talk about a king? We're sitting here talking about the No Kings protests over the weekend. The king analogy, I believe, works far more on the local school board level than it does in our federal government right now. You have elected school board members who, from what I'm hearing, are afraid to stand up to the unelected superintendent. They didn't want to seem like they were disagreeing with the superintendent and the administration's decision to fire the teacher. Who's the king around here? Where are all those white-haired ex-hippies to go down to the Blue Valley School Board meetings and talk about no kings. You can't find them. They're too busy bathing in their TDS this morning anyway. But that's a real king right there. When the elected officials by the people are afraid to stand up for their constituents out of fear of some type of retribution from the unelected king. That's it. So I did reach out and exchange messages with Barb Hart over the weekend, and we'll see if we can get her to come on the show at some point. I understand she's got a lot of moving parts. I understand that, there are legal things that she can and cannot say right now. I'm well aware of that. But if we can bring her on this show this week, we will. Because it's not just about her. It's about a system that if this is allowed to go through, you will have teachers throwing their hands up and saying, what more can I do? They still have to protect themselves. They've got to protect their pensions. I understand that. And if doing something like what Barb Hart did results in you losing your job, losing your income, your livelihood, and potentially a pension, you going to do it? Or are we now just going to have kindergarten kids with special needs wailing in the hallway with nobody doing anything about it because people are scared to death of being the next Barb Hart? What do you think's going to happen? It's just like policing. If you handcuff the police enough, they throw their hands up and they say, you know what? Why be proactive? It is the same thing with teachers, and this in the Blue Valley School District is a prime example of that. And as multiple people who are involved in the Blue Valley School District said to me over the weekend, please don't let the story go. And we're not. We're going to hammer this thing as long as there is updated news around it and more information to bring to you as well. Coming up on KCMO, some news that you will not hear anywhere else in Kansas City this morning. We have exclusive audio from the Overland Park mayor on what he's saying about the Royals, and we'll share it with you next.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Chiefs are rolling 31-0 win over the Raiders. That was absolute domination. You had the starters pulled by the end of the third quarter yesterday. And, well, across the parking lot, the question, of course, is where are the Royals going? I've got some audio here I want to share with you on KCMO Talk Radio, and it comes from Mayor Curt Skoog. He spoke on Friday morning at a breakfast club. And I have some audio from that breakfast club where the mayor of Overland Park was a little more open, a little more honest than maybe what we've heard in the media on this story over the last, couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years, whatever it's been at this point. It's been too darn long, but you get the point. So the audio's not great because, once again, this was just at a breakfast meeting of concerned citizens on Friday morning that got sent to me over the weekend. And there were things that Curt Skoog said, the mayor of Overland Park, who, of course, is also up for re-election here coming up in a couple of weeks, where he talked about, first off, how the Royals could work in Overland Park and what exactly this would look like. My reporting that I gave you 2 weeks ago at this point was that North Kansas City appears to be the front runner right now. Doesn't mean they're going to get it. Doesn't mean it's a done deal. I'm not doing any of this crossing the T's and dotting the I's dopey stuff that, other radio hosts in town are doing that give themselves lame nicknames after dogs and things of that nature. I'm not going to do that and go down that road. I'm just telling you they are feeling good about their status in Overland or in North Kansas City right now. They are. You got something for me?
Ow!
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Old Basset Hound down the dial. So Overland Park is still in the mix, though. And obviously 119th and Null is the preferred site in Overland Park for the Royals if they do jump across the state line and decide they're going to take Kansas up on these star bonds. Here's what Curt Skoog had to say at this breakfast meeting on Friday.
So the question is about the Royals. So the Kansas legislature decided that they were willing to fund the majority of its stadium, be it Royals or Chiefs. They created the special star bond district.
Now, even that, and this goes across party lines, even that framing of it, like, hey, the state of Kansas offered to fund the stadium. Well, no, that's not how it works. No, the taxpayer funds the stadium on the sales taxes from the additive revenues that would come from the Star Bond District. And depending on how the Star Bond District is drawn, it can be an absolute scam that actually takes money away from things that help real people in Overland Park or Wyandotte County or anywhere where the Star Bond District is drawn. So the government doesn't have anything without your money. Let's be very clear on this. Whether it's the state of Kansas, run by Republicans, whether it's Johnson County, run by Democrats, whether it's Overland Park, it doesn't matter. They don't have anything without your money. So that framing of it by the mayor, I believe to be, I think, purposefully misleading.
So the state is in negotiations, been publicly said they're in negotiations with both teams. One location, we have multiple locations in Overland Park where the Royals could fit and work, we think. Got a lot of work to do, but we think they could fit here. So as soon as the state gets done, if they can cut a deal, then we'll see if it ends up in Overland Park. But we have a couple sites where the Royals, we think, could work. We have to work on traffic.
We have to work, you heard Curt Skoog, the mayor of Overland Park, say there on Friday, we have to work on traffic. Well, I'll give him that. He's right about that. You got to work on traffic. And at least part of the plan here is to make Null and Rowe and Antioch, 5 lanes on both sides in both directions. I'm pretty sure that you can't fix this problem. But the mayor did go on to say in this meeting on Friday morning to this breakfast club that they are looking at multiple locations in Overland Park, in his estimation, all along College Boulevard.
Along College Boulevard. So one of the ones that's been in the media is the Aspiria campus, which is the Old Spring campus. So we think it could work there. There's a couple other sites along College.
I know the audio's not great, but what the mayor is saying there is that, the Aspiria campus, the Old Spring campus, obviously is the one that's gotten all the attention. And he says, I think it could work there. He goes on to say this.
Well, one would be Corporate Woods.
Corporate Woods! We could be neighbors with the old ballpark. How about that?
Just walk over to the stadium for an afternoon game after work.
Oh, my goodness. Right down the street here. Go figure. Oh, my goodness gracious. That would be something. Oh, you'd have people heckling John Sherman right outside of the office building here. Gosh, okay.
And there's a couple other sites I'd rather not say. They would be redevelopment sites. But part of our comprehensive plan update is we need to transition College Boulevard from suburban office into the office place of tomorrow, because kids today have different expectations than we did when we went to work.
Can someone explain to me what that means? I mean, I'm not like some old guy sitting here, all right, in my mid to late 30s. Do I have to call it mid or late 30s at this point? At 37. I'll hang on to mid for one more year. I think we agreed on that.
That's good. That's upper mid.
All right. That's good. I'm not some old fogey. And when I hear actual old fogies, with all due respect, be like, we've got to transition the workplace for younger people. They don't want this office space anymore. Well, they want to be YouTubers and work from home. So this whole idea of like the government needs to properly plan with mixed-use development, and then the government from there needs to basically give away the farm with tax incentives to developers to build these things. If there was such a demand for them, if that was really the way of the future, if there was an enormous amount of money to be made right out of the gates doing that stuff, then it wouldn't require taxpayer giveaways to do it. Right? I mean, just use common sense here. If this was the way of the future for workplaces and fun spaces and livable spaces that people really wanted around Kansas City and around the country, then you would have developers falling all over themselves with bids without requiring incentives to get the job done. But what you have is local municipalities who say the world is changing, office space is changing, where people want to live and how they want to live is changing, and that's why we have to get involved in some of these projects. Like what they talk about with the remodeling of Black and Veatch and those headquarters. It's like, okay, if they want to do it, let them do it. If they see that as a valuable spend for the future of their company, let them do it. Why do you have to be involved? Whether it's Black and Veatch, whether it's the Royals, whether it's anything else along College Boulevard. And I'm looking around the job market and I hire here and, I know what's going on in the world when it comes to hiring and firing and looking around for opportunities and doing all those things. And I actually have never heard somebody say, well, what is your office space like? Do you know anyone who has actually made a decision for a job based on the actual office space itself? It might have been a nice little bonus. It might have been like a cool part, an additive thing. But I don't know anybody who's ever made this claim of like the combination of walkability and livability with workability all into one little cute sector of land in Corporate Woods is the reason that you took a job. I just don't know who that person is. And it gets used by politicians, not just in Overland Park, but all over the place for why they do what they do. And I don't get it. It feels like one big cop-out to me and one big excuse for why they have to get involved so heavily in what these developers are doing day to day. John?
Yeah, it's just that I don't want to come into the office to work. I want to work where I live. How far are we from you can live in factory, comrade? We're getting close. They just don't know it.
We are. You're right about that.
See, I live in this apartment building, so I'm going to only apply to the businesses down on the first floor.
Yeah.
I can only say, you can live in factory, comrade.
Oh, my gosh. That's so true. That is so true. And I'll just tie this all together and say I don't blame John Sherman for any of this. As much as I believe the Royals have butchered a lot of this process, and that is just indisputable. I don't care who you are. They have screwed this thing up so many times in so many ways, and done a poor job selling this at so many turns. We could talk all morning about it for 4 hours. But I don't blame John Sherman for looking at the options, and Kansas comes to the table, and Missouri's at the table, and he's kind of weighing what the best move is. But at some point, the politicians have to just stand up and say, we got to have a backbone for our own constituents here. And my fear is that Overland Park is really interested in bending over backwards on behalf of either the Royals or Black and Veatch or anybody else. And they're doing it under this guise of, well, this is the way of the future. This is what people want. This is what young workers are looking for. I mean, I'm a young worker. You know what people want? They want a good job. They want to eventually raise a family, and they want to own a house. That's what they want to do. Don't overcomplicate this, okay? Please. It's not necessary. The 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. We will share with you coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
6:51. Good morning. Happy Monday. It is great to have you back on KCMO Talk Radio. It is that time of the morning. Let's roll it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Top of the list this morning, the Chiefs blow out the Raiders 31-0. By now, you know that, though. So let's give you just a little tidbit that you'll also hear from John Anthony and others throughout the morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes set the record for most coach quarterback victories in Chiefs history with yesterday's win. That is darn impressive. 93 is now the number between these two guys. Of course, Hank Stramlin Dawson had that record of 92 from 1962 to 1974. And the Reid-Mahomes coach-quarterback tandem has broken the Stram-Dawson record yesterday with that 31-0 domination of the Vegas Raiders as the Raiders ran 30 plays against the Chiefs. It is the fewest amount of plays an NFL offense has run in a game since at least 2002. Unbelievable number.
Number 2.
Next up in our 6 at 6. I'll keep it on that theme. Well, college football over the weekend. Florida firing their head coach, Billy Napier. And I bring that up here in Kansas City because 2 names are on this short list, apparently, for the Florida Gators. Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin and Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz. The Drink Man may get a big raise from Mizzou. If not, who knows? Maybe Florida does come calling. Are you crossing your fingers?
I heard the Penn State connection, so I was excited about that.
Come on, man. Mizzou's rolling. They beat Auburn in double OT.
Yeah, I have nothing nice to say, so I say nothing.
Okay, that's fair enough. Better to just keep your mouth shut on that one, John. That's fair. That's fair.
Number 3.
Next up in our 6 at 6, the No Kings protests over the weekend around Kansas City and around the country. And there are a couple of words that define the No Kings protest. Well, 2 really. Old and white. I am continuing to share videos on my X account at Pete Mundo. You can see them there. I mean, of just rallies all over the country. One in Atlanta, which is like 50% black. There's not a white person in sight at the No Kings rally in Atlanta. It was the same thing here in Kansas City, right? I mean, you would go down to Mill Creek Park and you basically saw a bunch of washed up hippie boomers. That's what it was. It was MSNBC's Target demo on display at these No Kings protests over the weekend, whether it was in Kansas City or anywhere else around the country. And I posted this on my Facebook over the weekend. It got a lot of reaction. Just search Pete Mundo on KCMO. You can find it there and follow my page. Imagine protesting Donald Trump on a day when there were 5 top 25 matchups in college football. It was Alabama-Tennessee weekend, 3rd Saturday in October. You had Mizzou-Auburn. I mean, KU K-State had the weekend off, but, nothing you can do about that. Schedule set in advance. But still, 5 top 25 college football games, and you got these people out there as just stone-cold losers protesting the king who is allowing you to protest freely, which I'm pretty sure a real king would not do. Please, make it make sense.
Number 4.
Next up in the 6 at 6, one man is dead after a shooting in Westport early on Sunday morning. Around 2:50, police were in the area of Westport Road and Mill Street when they heard gunshots north of the intersection. Officers found a man unresponsive in an unnamed restaurant's parking lot. There it is, those parking lots, once again, getting in the way. The man was taken to a hospital where he later died. His identity has not been released by KCPD. Police believe the victim was in the restaurant's parking lot when he had an interaction with one or more suspect that led to the shooting. Tips hotline is 816-474-TIPS if you have any information on what happened in that Westport parking lot over the weekend.
Number 5.
And next up in our 6 at 6, the United States Secret Service is looking into a hunting stand that was found in Florida which they say had a direct sight line to where Air Force One could park. This comes from TMZ. The law enforcement agency revealed yesterday they found the stand near Palm Beach International Airport last week, releasing a photo of the structure set up in a tree. In a statement released to the media, Secret Service saying during advanced security preparations prior to the Palm Beach arrival, our teams identified items of interest near Palm Beach International Airport, adding there was no impact to any movements, no individuals were present or involved at the location. But the FBI is looking into this, and as of now, they have not given anything more than that statement to TMZ. So we'll continue to see how that plays out here on KCMO.
Number 6.
And last up in the 6 at 6, the government shutdown is on day 20 with no end in sight. I mean, this is something that may just continue to go on. There was some thought that Chuck Schumer may want to negotiate now that the No Kings protests are over. But no one's budging. So we enter a third week, day 20, government shutdown, and there's really no new news on this whole thing. Nothing's changed. It's crazy. What has changed is the Chiefs' prospects. Kendall Gammon, of course, is going to be here to recap the game, talk about where it all goes from here as the Chiefs are rolling. Kendall Gammon is next. That was absolute domination yesterday. Chiefs smoked the Raiders 31-0. Kendall Gammon is here, our Chiefs insider, former player. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Sports are unpredictable. The price of your internet should not be. Introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for 5 years. No annual contracts guaranteed. Kendall, we could start in a lot of different places. I'll let you decide what impressed you the most yesterday.
You know what? That's kind of a hard one. I guess you got to say, anytime you blank a team and you hold them to less than 100 yards, defensively, the Chiefs was pretty impressive. But you can't overlook the offense either in terms of what they did, scoring on their first 5 drives. And anytime you take your starting players out before the end of the third quarter, you know you're doing something right.
You know, I was hoping you were going to go defense because that's where I would have gone as well. But you're right. I mean, with Rashee Rice back and Mahomes throwing no-look passes and doing trick plays on 4th and 1, on that side of the ball, is it just Rashee Rice being back that kind of gets everyone back into their originally, decided upon positions? Or is there something else that is making this offense really gel over the last couple of weeks in particular?
Well, what you say is true, but I think, and we talked about it last week, I believe, Pete, which is the offensive line playing better than they have in the past. That confidence rolls up to Patrick Mahomes. He can stand in the pocket. He can get to his second or third read. And I think that is a big part of it because no matter how good Rashee Rice is, and he certainly is, if Patrick doesn't have time to survey the field and figure out what's going on, then the other stuff doesn't happen.
That's a good point. So how about Rashee? He gets the first touchdown. I think that was obviously an important thing for Patrick to, get him involved early, send a message as well. But what does it mean to have this guy back, and how does this offense now change from here on out?
Well, I think the big thing is by having him there, you've got what is their top weapon, but then that just adds to the other weapons and allows other guys to get open at a better pace. And we saw Kelsey running free once. I think we saw maybe Xavier running free once as well. But those type of things, when you have a force like Rashee Rice, that just helped everybody else. And then you can't discount the fact that yesterday you had 3 plays of 20 yards or more. You had the catch by Tyquan Thornton. What was that, for 39? Noah Gray had one for 28, and then Travis had one for 44. Anytime you get big chunks like that, that's huge. And even though Rashee's name isn't there, he played a part in that.
That's a good point. Kendall Gammon joining us. Chiefs blast the Raiders yesterday, 31-0. Absolute domination out at Arrowhead Stadium. When you look at, Kendall, just where Andy Reid is right now, we looked at early in the season, they're 0-2, and, we're wondering what exactly this season and this team is going to look like. And maybe that's on us. That's part of being a fan. You like to overreact sometimes on our end. But as someone who's been in the game, as someone who's covered this team, what this guy is able to do year in, year out, he's staying creative. He's ahead of the curve. How much does that speak to Andy Reid and what he has really built here in Kansas City and what his legacy is going to be when all is said and done?
Well, you said it very well. And certainly he's a first ballot Hall of Famer already, having 3 Super Bowls and another, 3 appearances, one of those being with the Eagles. But I've talked about it before, Pete, is the one thing that I think, well, I guess it's 2 things. First of all, he's an offensive savant. I mean, he just understands it and goes after things like nobody's business. But I think the other thing is his communication skills and how he deals with the players. I think it's exceptional. I think it's one of the best. I was around him for 7 years on the broadcast side of things. I would love to have played for him, and certainly when I would talk to players, they would talk about that, just how much they love playing for him. He's a player's coach, and when you say that, that doesn't mean that you're getting away with things. It means that you just know you're being treated fairly, that you're being told the truth, even if you don't want to hear it, and then you know where you stand, and that's something that he's just great at, I believe.
How about Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I think he had at least one, it might have been 2 no-look passes. How difficult is it with the pace that this game is played at to throw a no-look pass in the NFL?
It's crazy to me, and it's funny. You can go all the way back to his rookie year when he wasn't starting. He was running the scout team, and he was just it was funny. He was just tearing up the first team defense. I remember hearing about to the degree that, and he was doing things like that back then with the no look, to where they had to tell him to do things a little bit more conventional because he was just so special. And that's really what he is. The no look pass is just a crazy thing.
It is wild. And, we
Yeah.
think about it. You obviously played the sport at the highest level. The defense is taught to watch the quarterback's eyes. I mean, that's part of the game, right? And Patrick Mahomes has basically taken that part of the game away from defenses, and it looks like he's just more comfortable than he's been. And I don't want to overreact to 2 games, but it looks like he's more comfortable than he's been in 3 or 4 seasons since maybe the end of the Tyreek Hill era in terms of what this offense could possibly do. And you combine that with this Spags defense, and suddenly you got the Super Bowl favorites back here in Kansas City, Kendall.
Yeah, it really is. And that's a fair assessment, Pete, when you talk about that. And not only the Super Bowl favorites, but he continues to be the favorite as the MVP because of how he's playing. And it's fun. And he's talked about it also. He's just having fun again. The team's having fun again. And you know what? It's a renewed sense of purpose, I think, when you lose the Super Bowl. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but you get to that, and you're just one step away, and you don't get it. And I think it speaks to his leadership style also, because it's not just him, but he brings other people up with him.
That's so well said. Defensively, Kendall, pitching a shutout yesterday. We talk a lot about this defense and how it has been undervalued, but I feel like I hear it more and more each passing week this season from the national broadcast teams about how they're showing more love to Spags, more love to this defense. And what do you take away from yesterday's performance and the importance of a shutout? Is it something we just talk about, or do the guys care about that in the locker room?
Oh, they definitely care about it because it doesn't happen very much in the NFL. I think that's the first regular season shutout that Andy Reid has ever had in his career, and I think it's the first shutout for the Chiefs maybe since 2011, somewhere around there. So it is huge. And the defense talked about it also, and I think it was Spagnuolo who talked about it, which is, yeah, they're doing a great job, but don't forget that when the offense gets on a team more than one score, it starts to put them in a one-dimensional have to pass, and that's what they love. When as a defender, you know more often than not that it's going to be a pass as opposed to a run, and how they're trying to catch up. That allows you to pin your ears back and really go after the quarterback.
Well, Kendall, we will give you Friday off because next up for the Chiefs, it is Monday Night Football next week, a week from tonight, at home against the Commanders. And we said it 2 weeks ago, Chiefs had this big 3-game homestand, and I think we were all saying, hey, 2-1 would be great. Now, anything but 3-0 would be a major disappointment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we'll talk about it on Monday before the game, and we'll see. But Jalen Daniels has some issues with the hamstring, and that would be huge if he doesn't play, but, time will tell.
Yeah, we will see how it plays out. We'll talk to you 1 week from today there, Kendall. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, Pete. Have a great day.
You as well. That is Kendall Gammon on KCMO 95.7 FM. Oh, man. Mark was out there chopping away yesterday. You weren't doing that closed fist thing, right? You chop away.
I usually chop. I like to do number 1, though, while I'm doing it, too.
Oh, all right. Well, as long as you're not doing the closed fist
point
thing.
the index finger. Right?
Exactly, yes.
Just making sure.
The
just
actual
making sure.
one, not the middle one.
Because anyone who was just doing the fist thing, I mean, they were probably also at the No Kings protests on Saturday. Do the chop. Chop away there, big man.
Christian Okoye was the drum banger.
Oh, was he?
Or the whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Drum deck honoree.
Yeah, drum deck honoree.
A drum banger works for me, Mark.
Sure.
That's fine. Banging the drum.
He was my first Chiefs jersey when I was a little kid.
Is that right?
I love that guy.
Oh, man. That was great. Well, you were out there. What a scene. And the place was emptying out by the end of the third quarter because the starters were yanked. Unbelievable. Coming up, you may have woken up to a lot of outages this morning. And I don't think it's like a cyber terrorist attack. I don't think that's what happened here. I'm pretty confident that's not what happened here, but it's got the internet buzzing. We'll tell you what happened early this morning, coming up next on KCMO.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
If you were up in the very early morning hours this morning, you may have noticed that there were some major websites that were down or really slow. And what it was tied to was an Amazon Web Services outage that took place early this morning, and it took down numerous big-name websites as well. Amazon Web Services, which is a leader in the cloud infrastructure market, caused issues with websites like Reddit that was having problems, Snapchat, Disney Plus, Amazon, Canva. Crypto exchange Coinbase reported that many users were unable to access the service due to the outage very early this morning. This was about 4 o'clock our time when it was reported, and AWS, Amazon Web Services, cited an operational issue affecting multiple services and said it was working on multiple parallel paths to accelerate recovery. So Peloton, if you were trying to get on that Peloton bike very early this morning, you probably had issues. I know that's part of your early morning routine, John Anthony. At about 3 a.m., you hit the Peloton.
Can't do anything without internet access in my house, boy.
John hits the Peloton at 3 a.m., and then on a Monday, he goes and he gets his 2 Big Macs after, a big sack on Sunday.
Well, it's usually where the shirts out of the dryer are hanging on the Peloton, right there on the handlebars.
So if you were looking for a reason to not work out this morning, you had it, and you could blame Amazon Web Services for that as well. So this is also impacted McDonald's app, the New York Times. Oh, what a shame. Robinhood, Ring Doorbell, T-Mobile, United Airlines, Venmo, Verizon. So
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Quite a few things, / too many things tied to that one deal.
I know.
Right? Thank goodness the airport's not tied to it.
I know. There is going to be a day, and God willing, it's not that bad. But when you think about where warfare is headed in this country and around the world, it is all going to be through the cloud. If you want to cut off the day-to-day, cut off the information spigot, and actually have major impacts on people's lives, it's all about the cloud services. It's all about the internet. It's crazy. And someone once said to me, hey, what's it going to take for people to really appreciate what radio is? Now, radio, especially the talk side, is still doing very well. I'm not just saying that for this show. I just mean in general, as a platform, it is doing very well. It still is, drawing revenue, drawing ratings, all those different things. But I said, if there ever is a day where, God forbid, you do have some type of major long-term internet issues, people are going to realize what we've got here, especially younger people who don't use it. We were talking to a bunch of high school kids last week. They came into the studio and they did a tour, and, I talked to them. And I said to these kids, I said, listen, you guys all listen to podcasts? Oh, yeah. What do we listen to? Oh, Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, the whole thing. I said, well, think about it like this. We are basically your favorite podcast that is broadcasting in real time that you can interact with. If there is some big breaking news, whether it's here in Kansas City or around the world, your podcast platform can't get it to you as quickly as we can. You turn on that radio dial right now to 95.7 FM, and we are having a conversation with you in real time. You can react to that conversation right now in real time. Now, yes, you could do that on YouTube Live and things of that nature. But if Amazon Web Services crashes, if, God forbid, warfare is done through the cloud services, these things are all screwed. I'm just saying, we're here for you every single morning, like clockwork. Yes, on a radio, also on your Google Home, also on your Alexa, also on your app, also on, all the different platforms that you'd want to be on. We're on all those places, and we're podcasting, of course. But you get back to the nuts and bolts. Thankfully, this Amazon Web Services issue was nothing more than some glitch on their end, and it looks like everything is back up and running after being slow for a couple of hours at about 4 o'clock our time. But it's just a reminder in terms of what we've got here, John, that I think is still wildly valuable, and people don't quite realize that.
Woke up this morning before 4 o'clock. It was 1975 all over again. I'll tell you what.
which I wouldn't even know anything
I
about.
was going to say, I'm not shaking in my boots here if all this stuff goes away. But
You'll be
some
just
of us are
fine.
used to it, yeah.
You'll be just fine, John.
I can signal with a mirror into the sun. I can do smoke signals.
Mark's
cursive.
screwed. I don't know if Mark's going to be in some trouble there, though. I will say that much. If he can't place his bets.
He's just hoping it all happens after halftime of the game tonight with the Mariners playing the Jays. Hopefully that game will wrap up in his favor about that time.
Halftime in a baseball game? Did I just hear you make that reference, John Anthony?
No, Seattle. The Seahawks are on Monday night. Right?
Oh.
And they've got the Mariners playing.
Oh.
The Mariners game may be over at about halftime.
They're hoping for a big party
Yeah.
at halftime of the Seahawks game
Seattle's
tonight in Seattle.
Wound up tonight.
Is that what they're doing? Boy. Oh, gosh. All right. So all those wacko lefties,
So get the internet back on in Seattle here because we've got stuff to follow tonight.
So all those crazies in Seattle who were probably protesting their little hearts out over the weekend now will be celebrating potentially Mariners wins and Seahawks wins.
Well, they don't get into SeaTac till about 9:30 though, because they've been all around the country dispersed.
Oh my goodness. Well, coming up, speaking of the No Kings protests over the weekend, I've got the greatest hits. Oh yeah. The greatest hits from what was just a predictable dud of a Saturday. Do not miss it. Some of the all-time clips from Saturday's rallies around the country, including here in Kansas City, coming up next on KCMO.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
It was a doozy of a Saturday. And no, not because we wrapped up our Pee Wee first and second grade soccer season with a 6-2 record and a tight 2-1 victory for the girls on Sunday. That's not why it was a great Saturday. That's not the reason. That was just maybe my personal reason. But it was a doozy of a Saturday, and also not because we had 5 top 25 college football matchups. It was a doozy of a Saturday because I couldn't get enough of scrolling through social media and seeing some of the worst at these No Kings rallies. My goodness, this was like SNL back when SNL was funny. You could make up some of these protesters, but they were out and about, and it was exactly what you would have expected. I found 3 that stood out to me, 3 of these protesters around the country that stood out to me above the rest. Let's go to, speaking of Seattle, we were just talking about Monday Night Football, the Mariners. Let's go to Seattle. Here we go. This courtesy of KNUS Radio in Seattle.
Trump's a big.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know. We don't like him. That's the word around here.
Any particular reason why you don't like him?
No clue at all. I'm just going with everybody else saying.
Seriously?
Yes. I swear. This young guy is probably 25. He shows up to the rally. And, I know the radio guy who was out there with the microphone in Seattle. I don't know him, but I know one of the guys with the radio station. And, yeah, KNUS. That's it right there. I don't really know why. It's just what people are saying around here, man. I wonder if just got kind of caught up in the whole thing. He was minding his own business on Saturday, and he sees a group of people, and they're protesting something, and he's like, I guess I'll join in.
What a noob. You're supposed to say, what do you don't like about it? Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I think we both know what we're talking about.
You don't have time for my answer.
There you go.
I know you're busy. You got a lot of people to talk to.
Yeah, the whole Biden. I'm out of time.
What are we talking about?
Oh,
Trump's a big.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know. We don't like him. That's the word around here.
That's the word.
Any particular reason why you don't like him?
No clue at all. I'm just going with everybody else saying.
I almost appreciate his honesty, though. No clue at all. Not a clue. All right. Let's go to this second protester. So there's this guy. He's filming himself. He's at one of the rallies with a shirt that says "For Charlie," for Charlie Kirk. And needless to say, that did not sit well with a couple of the female protesters.
Okay, if you have free speech, wear a shirt that says free speech. Wear a shirt that says promote free debate. Free press.
You get triggered because it has Charlie on there, right?
Because he was a racist. Because he was a misogynist. And that means that you are too. Because you support him. Get out. Get out of here.
He hated people. Yeah, just
He hated
calm it
anyone
down.
that wasn't white,
Calm
that
it
wasn't
down.
male, that wasn't straight.
Nothing like the old white boomer ladies yelling at the guy for wearing a "For Charlie" T-shirt and having a total full-blown meltdown over a guy's T-shirt. Yep, that was that clip right there. And it's amazing how you look at, and I've shared some of the videos on my ex at Pete Mundo. You can see him there. It is amazing how old and how white these protests were. For a party that has for 50 years viewed itself as the party of diversity, you are starting to see that change rapidly. It was like a who's who of MSNBC viewers out and about at these protests over the weekend, or NPR listeners. That's what it was. It was a cross-section of MSNBC meets NPR with a bunch of basically 65-plus folks out and about, whether it's at Mill Creek Park down here in Kansas City, 95th and Metcalf, or anywhere else in the country. Atlanta is a 50% black city, and there's a video I saw I reposted. You can't see a single black person at the whole rally in Atlanta. It's crazy. And, you think about this demographic. These people's parents were raised in the Depression. Their fathers fought in World War II. They were raised in a post-war economic boom by the greatest generation of Americans who ever lived. And this is what they've turned into. I mean, it's really pathetic. So here was the third video I saw that really just had me howling. And I may have saved the best for last. We got a No Kings song. You ready for this? We were bound to have a song, right?
Yeah, got to have one.
You got to have a song. All right. Here we go. That was in Chicago, brought to you by the AARP.
Mighty white of them.
I mean, don't break a hip out there, Susie, okay? Oh, my goodness.
Which side are you on?
Everybody now.
Which side are you on?
Say it again. Oh,
Which
my
side
goodness.
are you on?
Well, I mean, it was bound to happen. You had a bunch of former washed-up theater majors out there, and, you know, they had to have a song to the whole thing. So that was in Chicago yesterday. So I'll post that one up as well because that was too good to be true. 913-408-7957. Some of the greatest hits from the No Kings protests over the weekend.
Live in Chicago.
Rick is on KCMO. Go ahead, Rick.
Pete, you're missing the whole point. You and all the other talking heads
missing
on
the whole
radio
point.
and television.
Okay. All right, Rick. What am I missing? Lighten up, Rick. Lighten up. Go ahead.
Okay. The point is, this was the perfect weekend to have a No Kings rally, and the reason for that is 1781, Cornwallis surrendered to George Washington, essentially ending the Revolutionary War, and no more kings.
Yeah, the history's probably lost on this group, but I appreciate the input there, Rick. Weston Gladstone, go ahead.
Yeah, so whenever I heard that there was going to be one up in Liberty, I was like, heck, I got to go up there just to see what these people are like, right? So I went up there with a buddy, and we stopped at Burger King first, and we got our crowns, right? So we're walking amongst them. They have no idea that we're trolling them, right? So every once in a while, we'd tell somebody that we were a Trump supporter, and they were really nice. We laughed and joked. It seemed like I would say it was probably 60 to 70% retired age.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw one black guy. There were probably 500 people there, right? Which really surprised me. I didn't think there'd be that many people there. But so we finally got to the petition desk, right? And it was this white woman wearing a hijab. And two of the petitions were about LGBTQ something, right? So I asked her, I said, well, you're wearing a hijab because you're Muslim. Oh, yes. And I said, well, they're really not too tolerant of gay people. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, Muslims are very broad, blah, 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 blah. So I turned away, and I walked away, and she said, she yelled at me, you're just here to argue with me, aren't you? And I was like, no, So I got to thinking, what would Mundo have said to her, right? And I thought, well, I should have said, if you ever go to Gaza with one of these petitions and someone asks you to go up on a tall building to go stargazing, don't do it. But hey, everybody was nice. They all had their own homemade signs. And, I was just thinking, what are all these people doing out here? It was sad. I just thought it was sad.
Well, I appreciate you doing the heavy lifting on the ground. I'm also disappointed you were not watching the Mizzou-Auburn game that went to double overtime. I am disappointed to hear that, Wes.
Well, Pete, now that game started at 6:30.
Oh, okay. That's right.
I will tell you, I thought they were going to get beat, and I went to bed at the start of the fourth quarter.
Oh, that's the most embarrassing part of your whole phone call there, Wes. My gosh.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
You were doing well. You were in the front-running position for caller of the day till you admit that you went to sleep at the start of the fourth quarter of the game.
No, I went to bed because I knew they were going to lose.
Oh, gosh. All right.
I had seen too many games where we got Mizzou'd, and I was like, oh, this is just another one, man.
Well, you better watch out. Drink may end up down in Florida with the Gators if you're not careful.
That has been a dead end for the last coach that won there was Urban Meyer, and has that been 20 years ago now?
Yep. I think that was 06,
Yeah.
07. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That seems
You're
like
right.
a dead end for anybody that goes down there, man, for whatever reason, because they've sure got the talent in that state. So
I wouldn't touch that job. I'm with you. I think Drink's got a good thing going at Mizzou. I wouldn't come near it. You know what he should do? Just leverage it for, a few more bucks. That Indiana head coach got himself a new extension, Signetti. His buyout's $90 million if they fire him. These college football programs, going off a side tangent here, but these college football programs that are going to, and these conferences going to search for private equity money from the Saudis. It's like, how about you stop giving these coaches buyouts of $50 to $100 million? My goodness. Well, good job by Wes, hitting the streets, going to the No Kings rally. And I'm glad that people were polite. I think for the most part, that was the case. I'm just not sure if they really knew why they were there. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. We'll get to more of your calls in the 8 o'clock hour on 95.7 FM KCMO.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, Pete, Ace Freely. Good morning. 7:50 on a Monday. It is great to be here on KCMO. Let's do it.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, the good from the weekend. It's easy to say the Chiefs beating the Raiders 31-0, so I'll be a little more specific. How about that Patrick Mahomes trick play from yesterday? If you missed it, I'll set the scene here for you real fast. Chiefs are facing a 4th and 1, and as you probably have seen teams do, they may walk up to the line of scrimmage. They may pretend to hike the ball to try to draw the defense off sides. If the defense jumps and goes off sides, what happens? Well, the Chiefs get a first down, an automatic first down. Teams do it all the time. It rarely works. Mahomes yesterday pretends like he's not going to run a play by saying at the line of scrimmage, "This never works, man," with a couple of other colorful words mixed in. And then he ends up running the play. He was trying to basically catch the defense off guard, and it appeared to have worked. Here's what it sounded like.
Sorry. Mahomes says, "Coach, it doesn't
there they go.
work." He was faking it.
There they go. You had given up on that one. You thought for sure it was a draw, didn't you?
The Andy Reid.
Draw him offside.
Unbelievable. Pete Carroll even knows this. We're going to make you think we're trying to draw you off sides, and then we're going to go ahead and take a downward punt. And then he goes, and Mahomes goes, "Gosh, it never works. It never stinking works.
It never works, Jim. It just, Jim, it never works. Oh, my, Jim, it worked." Easy does it, Tony. Relax. Has anyone regressed as a broadcaster quite like Tony Romo has the last several years? Tony Romo's become a caricature of Tony Romo. It's crazy. He had a great first couple of years, and it's just since then he's just a cartoon character. But anyway, he was excited, and after the game, Mahomes said this about that trick play.
I think it comes from all my State Farm commercials. No, I'm joking. The Nags actually came up with the idea. You know, we had talked about of doing the hard count, trying to draw the teams off sides. And I can't remember who I watched do it a couple years ago, and they had said that. And so I was like, I'm going to use that as part of my acting to like try to get the defense just to relax a little bit. But at the end of the day, we still got to go get it. And I thought the offensive line did a great job of driving off the ball, and then Kareem in those situations is money.
Mahomes crediting his acting skills from his State Farm commercials for getting him to, try to lure the Raiders into thinking he's not going to run a play, and then he does it. They get the first down. Just an awesome moment yesterday. The bad from the weekend. So I may be showing my age here, but it's Friday night, looking for something to watch. Kids are asleep, and we stumble upon Friday the 13th. And we turned it off. About 3/4 of the way through, we just say, what is this? The plot line stinks. There is zero character development. You don't feel like you know anybody in the movie. And yes, random people are, getting offed throughout the movie. But there's nothing to it. Now, it's not my genre, those kind of gory movies. But I'm watching Friday the 13th, and I'm like, oh, man, this is an all-timer. I've never seen it before. Released in 1980. This is going to be a classic. All right, let's see what this is like. Halloween's in a couple of weeks. Timing's pretty good. It was just on TV. I didn't sit down and, just decide I was going to watch it. I said, let's give it a shot. And I turned it off. Maybe I'm missing something. But nothing about this movie stood out to me as being an all-time great horror movie, or any movie for that matter. I just didn't get it. So I don't know if either of you guys felt strongly about this movie either way, but it did nothing for me when we watched it on Friday night, John.
You've seen Friday the 13th one more time than I have.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That was your heyday, man.
Oh, I did that stuff. Just didn't appeal to me.
I guess you were too busy going to Kiss concerts for $5.
$5 Kiss concerts, $10 see the Eagles, Monty Python, KCPT.
How about that? Okay, Mark.
I also have never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a genre I watch.
It's not for me, but I just figured, and I didn't even know Kevin Bacon was in it. I was like, and then I saw a Kevin Bacon commercial during the break. I was like, how about that? But yeah, okay. All right. So we're all on the same page. But I put it up on my Facebook, and my Facebook went nuts. Some people were really upset that I would speak ill of that movie. But I'm glad they can call you up and they can yell at you about it, John. All right. That was the bad from the weekend. The ugly. This one viral moment from one of the No Kings protests over the weekend. And I'm not suggesting that this moment was, part of the broader No Kings protests happening in Kansas City or around the country. It wasn't. You just heard from a caller who went up to the one in Liberty and said people were all very nice. They were clueless, but they were nice. That's great. But there's one moment from one of the No Kings protests in Chicago that is getting a lot of attention. A Chicago elementary school teacher identified online, allegedly as Lucy Martinez, is seen at the No Kings protest in Chicago, mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk by pretending to basically harm herself in the neck. She has gone viral all over the internet. She is allegedly, once again, a teacher at an elementary school in Chicago. That school, the Nathan Hale Elementary School, has its website that is now down. You cannot get to the website of that school because she has gone viral online for mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Once again, she does not define most people who are at these protests, but it is a very disturbing video. And once again, just a reminder that please check to see who's in charge of your kids at school. I mean, I believe overwhelmingly our teachers work hard. They're trying to do the right thing. They're wanting to do the right thing. But there are plenty that aren't as well. And the fact that this lady allegedly is teaching kids in elementary school is just beyond disturbing based on what she was doing over the weekend. And she has been posted all over the internet. Coming up next, speaking of our schools, I do have some behind-the-scenes intel on what happened in one of our area schools that has gone viral, and I'll share that with you coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO. I wish I could say the story's getting better, but it's not. But that doesn't mean that we're going to give up on it. It doesn't mean that we are going to let it die in the vine. That is not going to happen. 8:05 on a Victory Monday. Chiefs blast the Raiders yesterday. Everyone in town in a good mood coming out of that game. My goodness. They had the backups in by the end of the third quarter. But in Blue Valley, they have a major problem on their hands because parents are not letting this one go, and they shouldn't. And that's the story of this kindergarten teacher, Barb Hart, who was fired last week by the Blue Valley School Board. For doing what? For helping a special needs kindergartner who is having a meltdown get into a safe space in her classroom. She had been a teacher for 25 years in the Blue Valley School District, and she lost her job because she was asked to assist with this student who was having a difficult time, a kindergarten student. She physically, obviously, moved that student into her classroom, into a safe space, and she got fired because she put her hands on the student. And you wonder why good teachers are leaving the system in some cases as quickly as they can. You can't trust the system anymore. You can't trust the school board anymore. In some cases, you can't trust your own superintendent. And that is part of the major screw-up here that has led to just a massive blowback. 2,500 signatures on a change.org petition. There's a GoFundMe for this teacher, Barb Hart. And now there's a letter that has been obtained by Fox 4 from the parents of the special needs child saying that they believe Barb Hart should not have lost her job. And she should not have. I exchanged some text messages with this teacher over the weekend, and we are hoping that we can get her on the show in the not-too-distant future and talk about what happened here. I understand there are legal reasons and hurdles that obviously, need to be talked about first, so I'm well aware of that. But at the same time, this is something that we're going to keep hammering because this is education at its absolute worst. This is now going to result in potentially other special needs kids having meltdowns and teachers basically just saying, what am I going to do? Even a kid without special needs. I mean, I've got a first grader. I've got a soon-to-be kindergartner. It's a difficult age for a kid walking into a school with hundreds of other kids, not knowing where they are, not having any familiarity with their classmates, with their teachers, with the administrators at 5, 6 years old. Never mind if you have special needs, but this can happen to any kid. This could be your kid. This could be my kid, your grandchild. This could be any of our children. And now what are you going to get from teachers who are afraid to lose their jobs? And I understand if you're a teacher, you got to protect your own livelihood here too. And the Blue Valley School Board in that 6-1 pathetic vote last week basically said, we are afraid of our administration. That was the message here. And I know that to be a fact. I know there are at least a couple of board members in that 6-1 vote last week who voted to fire Barb Hart, who didn't want to do it, who knew it was the wrong thing to do. But you know what? They didn't want to say no to their administration. And how pathetic is that? In the wake of a No Kings protest over the weekend, where people are out and about and protesting the idea that Donald Trump is some kind of king, you know where the real kings are in your government? Apparently, they're at your superintendent levels and your administrations. Those people are not elected. The elected officials, the school board members, the people you actually put into office, they're afraid of the administration. That's what's going on here at Blue Valley, apparently. And I know for a fact that they are not alone in that. I know that that happens in school districts all over Kansas City. You have school boards, the ones who are elected by you to protect you, the taxpayer, you, the parent. They are scared to death of the bureaucratic administrators. They're scared to death of the unelected administrators. What does that tell you about the system? It's broken. You want to protest kings? You should have these protesters all over these school board meetings around Kansas City over the next, couple of weeks. They won't go. Of course, they don't care. Trump's the big, bad orange man. That's the only thing they care about. But you get the point. And this letter from the parents of the kid involved, saying that this is the student's first semester at kindergarten. They're grateful to have Mrs. Hart. They call her loving and caring and passionate to her students. They say that they hope the Blue Valley School District takes it seriously to get Mrs. Hart back. So this is the test for Blue Valley. Do they do the right thing? Or do they just say by the letter of the law, this teacher touched a child and she has to be fired? No acknowledgement of a gray area. No looking at this and saying, well, the teacher allegedly was called into the situation and was asked to get involved, had a 25-year history, no special needs kids, and actually helped that child out. The parents showed support. Do they do the right thing or not? I'm not convinced that they will, because all I've seen is cowardice from this Blue Valley School Board. I mean, we had on a school board member last week, Jim McMullen. He's the one guy who voted no to fire Barb Hart. He didn't give us much, unfortunately. I understand there's probably some stuff they can't say, but he did admit there's no video of this. There's no video in the hallway. So what happened here? Administrators said something happened. They said it was a violation, despite the fact that there's overwhelming support for Barb Hart, 25-year tenure. I guess that all gets thrown out the window, huh? And then you also have Jan Kessinger. I believe he's the Blue Valley School Board president. He said last week to the media that, well, there's more here than meets the eye. And I know you can't say everything when you're dealing with a personnel matter, but hiding behind this whole personnel matter thing as well is such a cop-out. 913-408-7957 is the text line and our studio line on KCMO. Janice, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm on Barb Hart's side.
Well, I'm glad you got common sense there, Janice. Welcome aboard. What else can I do for you?
Well, the reason is, I was in the Johnson County School District, and when I was I've been in the Missouri School District too, and Missouri doesn't know how to hire teachers worth a crap. And thank God I was only in Missouri for 4 years.
Yeah, well, thank you, Janice. Go ahead, real quick.
But for Barb Hart, it's hard to get good teachers, and I know Johnson County hired good teachers. When I was supposed to go to a movie, and I did get to go, but I was having a bad coughing spell, and so I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, and my teacher took me by the hand and took me down to a teacher that I had when I was in the 1st grade. And what happened was, by her taking me by the hand, it was there to help me so I could see the movie, but also get the help I needed. Even though I wasn't a special needs kid, I had a really bad cough.
Most importantly, Janice, what movie were you going to see?
I don't remember what it was. It's been a long time.
Oh, come on now. It hasn't been that long, Janice. Don't sell yourself short, but I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. I'm glad you're on Barb's side there, Janice. 913-408-7957. On the text line, Pete, where is the almighty teachers union in all this?
Had another caller just with that, too. We talked about that last week.
I
right?
know.
Nowhere still.
Nowhere. I agree. I don't know where. You know, the one time I'd be like, hey, let's get on the side of the teachers union here. The one, and not because I don't think they should have a union, but because I think the teachers union actually does the teachers in the classroom a disservice. They're great if you're on the administrative side, okay? They're great for that. But the men and women doing the real work in the classroom, I actually think the teachers union doesn't help them like they should.
Well, no,
but I agree. Where is the teachers union in all of this right now? They are totally lost. They have not said a peep. God forbid somebody in Topeka proposes cutting like 1% from the public education budget. You'll hear from the teachers union in a heartbeat. But on this right now, nothing. I got crickets.
You'll hear from them on the story of the Chicago teacher we just highlighted a minute ago, too.
They'll jump all over that. But Barb Hart, I don't know. Guess they can't be bothered. On the text line, Pete, I wonder if she was set up by the coworkers. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but something stinks here about the whole way this went down. Something absolutely stinks. And the Blue Valley superintendent has got to get ahead of this. She's got to be smart, and she's got to say we screwed this thing up. And it's okay to do that. One of the most admirable things you can do is admit you screwed up. Dr. Jillian Chapman could do that today. And if she wants to prove that she's going to be a great superintendent for Blue Valley, that could start first thing this morning. I'm not convinced she's going to do it, though. 913-408-7957, our text line and our studio line on KCMO. At the bottom of the hour, I have exclusive audio from the mayor of Overland Park, Curt Skoog, talking about the Royals in a closed-door small group meeting that took place on Friday. We'll get to that this hour on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Hey, it's Vince Gallaneys. Catch my new show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, I'd love to get this answer, and I believe Paul in Overland Park may be able to help us as to why Barb Hart, the teacher who was fired by Blue Valley last week for helping a special needs child get into a safe space, helping the child calm down. The parents have supported the fired teacher, and they've said in a letter they believe that the teacher should be reinstated. Paul may have the answer as to why there is no teachers union involvement here. Paul, what do you got for us?
Man, Pete, you prop me up big time. So, Pete,
don't let me down now, Paul. Don't have a swing and a miss here. All right, I put it on a tee for you.
I hope not. About 10 plus years ago, and maybe even a little bit longer, the Blue Valley teachers resigned their position with the NEA and now have an education association. And the primary uses is for negotiating salaries, benefits, and all that. It doesn't mean there aren't protection, but when you don't see them as loud mouth like the Shining Mission NEA or the Olathe NEA, is because it's just an education association focused around benefits and all that. So it's been a good thing, but it's also probably in this situation not a good thing for Barbara, where you don't have some loudmouth radical teacher fighting for her.
Wow. So the one time you might want to have a big, blustery union rep blowing their horn on your behalf, the one time I actually might be okay with that, Blue Valley actually doesn't have it.
Correct. And it's a good thing because we don't have all the political nuisance and nuance and all the nuts that going on in Olathe and Shining Mission, but also, this is probably a time where it would have been a benefit. And hopefully I hit one out for you.
Oh, you did, man. You did. That was a good job there, Paul. Well done. Thank you for the that's really good information. Literally answering the question as to why Barb Hart has not had that union rep screaming at the top of his or her lungs on her behalf. Well, then I'll be the union rep for Barb Hart, okay? I'll do it. Yeah. I'll be the big mouth union rep for Barb Hart and use this microphone here in 95.7 FM to do it. I'm fine doing that. She needs one, I'll do it, John. Pro bono, baby.
Yeah, it's good information from Paul. I guess on the other hand, I was thinking, I don't know if the union would step up for her or not. And they'd be, our hands are tied.
Yeah, well, you're right.
So,
we'll never know.
I'm not sure. So that explains it, though.
Yeah, it does. We will never know. Right as I see J.B. Pritzker on my TV screen at a No Kings rally. Oh, my God. Talk about a blowhard. Oof. Unbelievable.
You thought it was a King's Cake rally. Showing up for the food.
Oh, man. Well, the government shutdown has hit 20 days. Today is day 20 of the government shutdown. Have you noticed yet? No? Okay. Just making sure. But Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, was on ABC's This Week yesterday with John Carl. And listen to how Mike Johnson beautifully handles this question from ABC and John Carl talking about the shutdown yesterday.
The Democrats did not vote for the clean funding bill. They have chosen to shut the government down to fight for the health care and the other items you mentioned. But let me ask you, why?
It's an interesting framing by ABC. The Democrats have chosen to shut the government down. I don't know if he meant to phrase it like that or if he just got caught telling the truth. But let's continue.
As this is going on, why is the House not in session?
Well, first of all, we're fighting for health care as well, not just in word, but in deed. We put it in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, real reforms to Medicaid to make it work better, to preserve the program, because we had illegal aliens receiving benefits. We had young, able-bodied men who were not working. They don't have dependents. They were riding the wagon. We cleaned that up in our bill. In their counterproposal, what Chuck Schumer is arguing for is he wants to reverse those reforms, which would be a terrible policy decision for the people.
That is Mike Johnson explaining how we got here. They passed that big, beautiful bill back in July, and that strips out Medicaid for illegal immigrants. It makes it so that young men have to, or young people in general, but, notably young men, have to actually go out into the labor force. You got to work, you got to volunteer, you got to be in school to get things like Obamacare. You have to do those little things to get basically government subsidized insurance. And then now, as we sit here on day 20 of this shutdown, you have one political party that says, we don't agree with what you guys passed. That, by the way, they had every right to pass, just like the Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act back in 2021. There's never been a worse name for a piece of legislation than the Inflation Reduction Act that helped spike inflation to 40-year highs. But they were allowed to pass it. They had the power in the House and the Senate and the White House, and they passed it. And because Republicans screwed up in 2020 and didn't focus on those 2 Georgia Senate race runoffs, Democrats won the Senate. They got to pass their legislation. Republicans did the same thing this year. They passed their legislation. Completely legal what they did, by the book. And now Democrats have chosen to shut the government down because they didn't like that legislation that was legally passed back in July and signed into law. That's how we got here. And then they have the audacity to have a No Kings protest over the weekend, protesting this made-up idea of Trump being a king, which I'm pretty sure if Trump was a king, the government would be open today. And I'm pretty sure if Trump was a king, he wouldn't have had millions of people protesting his kingdom on Saturday afternoon. Like, you think about how we got here with the shutdown, what it's led to today, and none of it makes any sense as it relates to the Saturday protest. Coming up in Overland Park, we have exclusive audio from the mayor talking about the Royals and their future that could be an OP next.
From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Check to 95819. We have 9 more days left of our 5K a day giveaway. $1,000, 5 chances a day with a text to win keyword. Check to the number 95819. 834, 1034, 1234, 234, and 434 here on KCMO. So Overland Park, of course, is rumored to be in the mix for the Kansas City Royals. 119th in Null, getting the most attention. I thought that it was the worst place I could ever imagine putting a baseball stadium, but hey, that's just me. I'm not the billionaire owners. But we haven't heard much from local leadership in Overland Park about this. Mayor Curt Skoog was at a Breakfast Club meeting on Friday morning, and I got this audio from somebody who obviously was at the meeting with the Overland Park mayor. And I thought he spoke more openly and honestly about the possibility of the Royals landing in Overland Park than I've heard him speak to media on this show or anywhere else. And he didn't know exactly where they were in the running when it comes to landing the Royals and whether or not it makes sense for them to go to Overland Park. I've reported over the last couple of weeks that North Kansas City is progressing well when it comes to potentially getting the Major League Baseball franchise. I gave you that 2 weeks ago today. And then last Thursday, you had the mayor of North Kansas City come out in a statement and say, yeah, things are moving along up here. Doesn't mean they'll get it. All right, I'm not going to jump the gun here. I'm not going to do what other radio hosts have done in this town, and that's tell you that they're dotting the T's and crossing the I's and then sit here 6 months later looking like a horse's rear end. I'm not going to do that. But I'll tell you that North Kansas City is in a good spot, and that my reporting would suggest Overland Park is number 2 and Washington Square Park is a distant third. But Overland Park's still in the mix. There's no doubt about it. So what is the mayor saying? Well, let's take a listen to Curt Skoog at this breakfast meeting on Friday. The audio's not great, so we'll stop and go on this thing, and here's part of what he had to say.
So the question is about the Royals. So the Kansas legislature decided that they were willing to fund the majority of its stadium, be it Royals or Chiefs.
Well, I'm just going to stop right there real quick, and then I'll keep it going. It's not really how it works. The state of Kansas isn't funding anything. No government funds anything without OPM, other people's money. A government doesn't operate without the private sector's money. It can't. I mean, I guess at the federal level, it could just print money, but you get the point. I don't think that's the most genuine way to explain the Star Bond deal that's on the table in Kansas. It would be additive revenues and sales taxes off of those additive revenues that would then be used to pay back the bonds on the stadium that get issued. And depending on how the Star Bond District is built in Kansas and what the actual lines of the Star Bond District are, and we have no idea what that would look like for a Royal Stadium or a new Chief Stadium, you really ultimately might be taking money away that would be going to the taxpayer, would be going to basic services. That could be how it goes, depending on how these Star Bond districts are ultimately drawn. But anyway, let's continue with Curt Skoog, the mayor of Overland Park, speaking last Friday morning.
They created the special Star Bond district. So the state is in negotiations, been publicly said they're in negotiations with both teams. One location, we have multiple locations in Overland Park where the Royals could fit and work, we think. Got a lot of work to do, but we think they could fit here. So as soon as the state gets done, if they can cut a deal, then we'll see if it ends up in Overland Park. But we have a couple sites where the Royals, we think, could work. We have to work on traffic.
We have to work on traffic at the end, says Mayor Curt Skoog. And we have a couple of locations, he says, in Overland Park where we think it could work. So naturally, there were follow-up questions there from this meeting last Friday morning that the mayor spoke at, including the idea of, okay, if it somehow does pass and if somehow you look at a location in Overland Park and the Royals want to play there and the state approved the Star Bond, well, what about our input here in OP? What would that look like? And here's what the mayor said.
In Overland Park, we have a public if this would happen, we're going to take it through our regular process like we do everything else. There will be public participation, there will be all kinds of studies, and we will not approve that project unless we think it's a good choice for Overland.
So he basically said there will be public participation, there will be studies, and we'll only approve it if we think it's a good deal for Overland Park. Let me ask you, just honestly, just between you and me. If you think the process were to get that far, where the Royals want to play at 119th and Null, the Kansas legislature or the group within the legislature approves the Star Bond District, do you really think Overland Park would then say, "No, we're good"? Do you really believe that? Do you really think that whatever you were to go say as part of the public participation involvement at an Overland Park City Council meeting would make a difference? It won't. I promise you it won't. At that point, it will be a done deal. At that point, they will be dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And you can scream all you want at whatever public participation portion of a city council meeting you want, and it won't make a damn a difference. You're kidding yourself if you think that it will. If you're an Overland Park resident and you don't want the Royals for a multitude of reasons, now's your time to speak up. Not in 3 months, not in 4 months, not at the public participation part of the city council meeting. That will be like the teacher in Peanuts. That's what the Overland Park City Council members are going to hear. Wah, 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 wah. That's it. They won't hear a word that you say. They won't care about what you say. You got to get out in front of this. Yesterday, Kate was out with my mother-in-law who was in town, and they were in a part of town where the Royals are considering building. Not exactly right around the street, around the corner, but we were talking about it at dinner yesterday. They were shopping over there. And I said, yeah, that's kind of the part of town where the Royals are considering putting a Major League Baseball stadium. And she was like, what? It doesn't even make sense. I said, yeah, that's the area. And we're talking about this at dinner. And my oldest daughter, who's obviously been to the Royals games, she's going to be 7 here coming up in about 6 weeks. She's like, Dad, what's wrong with the current stadium? Like, why is it that 6-year-olds have so much common sense? Why? What is it about 6-year-olds where they have so much common sense? And I didn't give her the old concrete cancer line. I figured I'd pass on that. But I said, yeah, they're considering moving it to over, by the Trader Joe's that you've been to, kind of that part of town, because I figured that was the one landmark that she would know. And I said, yeah, there's a lot of people that live over there. They probably wouldn't want this baseball stadium there, but they're not really saying a lot right now. Kind of being quiet. And then she says, well, that doesn't seem like a good deal for them. Why would they want to live near that? Exactly. Once again, why is it that the 6-year-olds have all the common sense around this town right now? I don't know. I can't figure it out either. But if you're an Overland Park resident and this concerns you, now's your time. Don't wait. Speak up. Call your council members. Make a stink. Do those things now. Because by the time we get to let's get the public input from Overland Park residents, it will be too late. I promise you, it will be a done deal at that point. And call your state lawmakers because they're involved here as well in this whole deal. You have people in charge who are running to be the next governor, who are going to play a role in this. That's where you got to make some noise. That's where you have to make your voice heard, or you call up this show. I promise you, you'll have way more people listening to you right now when you call up this show than you will at your city council meeting. And it will make a difference because you'll be ahead of the curve. Do not wait. And I would be curious to know the last time the Overland Park City Council said no to a developer of any size. I mean, they love it. They'll put up whatever complex that the developer wants to put up, and they'll give them, a little cherry on top in the form of some tax abatement to boot as well. When's the last time they said no to somebody? I don't know the answer, but I'm guessing it's been few and far between the last several years. So just remember that as well if you think that there's a chance that Overland Park would actually say no to this if the Royals want to move to OP.
I know how they'll do it. You got to handle this with child psychology. You say, hey, I'm a homeowner. I'm all for the stadium. Can I park cars in my front yard at $20 a pop? Is that okay? Can I put, HOA will shut that right down. There will be no stadium.
That's a good
You're
one.
not parking in the front yard.
That's so true, man. That's so true. Hey, Pete, can your daughter run for Overland Park mayor? That's on the text line. Might be too late. I think that the deadline is passed. But, there is an Overland Park mayor's race. It's Curt Skoog's in a good spot to win re-election. I'll say that much. So it's really not about impacting the mayor's race. I don't think there's a lot of juice there. I've said that many times in recent weeks. But I do think that, the leadership right now should be held accountable to the people. And now is an important time to do it. 913-408-7957 is our text line and our studio line here on KCMO. Also on the text line, Pete, way to set this whole segment up for a great Tirade Tuesday tomorrow. You guys are ahead of the curve. Well done. Well done. That's tomorrow, of course, 8:35 on 95.7 FM. Just something to keep an eye on here. That's what I got for you. Coming up, I'll give you my 5 biggest takeaways from a dominant performance yesterday right here in Kansas City. We'll get to it all on a busy Monday next.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
That was fun yesterday, huh? Watching the Chiefs just blast the Raiders 31-0. My 5 quick takeaways from the game yesterday. Top of the list. Welcome back, Rashee Rice. Let's go. Woo! Listen, I know the guy royally screwed up in Dallas last year when he's flying down a freeway, racing, gets into a crash, runs off. I don't know if he's a changed man or not. I don't know the guy. I have seen a semblance of humility in some social media posts around Rashee Rice. He responded to a troll last week who was saying, let's not act like Rashee Rice is just coming back from a torn ACL. Like, let's remember why he didn't play the first 6 games of the year. And Rashee just writes back to the guy like, God bless you, man. It's all good. I hope he is a changed man. I do not know if he is. At the same time, when it comes to football, he's a number 1 wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He gives this wide receiving core an element that it really hasn't had from a depth and talent perspective since the Tyreek Hill days. Rashee got the first touchdown of the game yesterday for Kansas City, and it almost allowed Mark to hit his big parlay. He was 14 yards, or was it 8 yards short on Rashee Rice of winning the parlay, Mark?
Just 8 yards shy.
And if the Chiefs hadn't played so well on defense, you might have had a chance in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think if they would have got one more drive, I think he would have got it.
But they pulled the starters, and Mark's parlay came up 8 yards short of hitting. That would have been a second straight week that Mark hits his big parlay. All right? You can beat inflation with the Mark Van Sickle betting app, sponsored by KCMO Talk Radio. There you go. My takeaway number 2 is just Mahomes yesterday. He was on absolute fire. He is the only quarterback since 2000 to have 200 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns on the first 3 drives of the game. That's how good he was yesterday. The no-look passes, those things were just unbelievable. I can't imagine in a game moving that quickly, at that pace, at that speed, to have the no-look passes this guy was having, because it was always on defense, as long as the NFL's been around, just follow the eyes of the quarterback. Follow the eyes of the quarterback. And Mahomes is like, yeah, hold my beer. That's not going to happen here. And he's done them before. It's not like it's like the first time he's ever done it. But it felt like it did a few years ago yesterday, and it felt that way against the Lions last Sunday night as well. So the Chiefs are on a roll. Mahomes was on fire yesterday, and he was yanked with less than a minute to go in the third quarter, which tells you how confident they were in how that game was going to wrap up yesterday. Number 3 on my top 5 takeaways from the Chiefs game, 30 first downs for the Chiefs, 30 plays for the Raiders. You can't even fathom those kinds of numbers. And Pete Carroll, oh my gosh, I'll get to him in a second, but he was a broken man, an absolute broken man. That is a testament to this defense and how unbelievable they were yesterday. Steve Spagnuolo continues to, and I'm sensing in some of the national broadcasts, he is getting more and more credit with each passing year. But let's be honest, last couple of Super Bowls, they're not getting to without this Spags defense. They're not winning the one 2 years ago without him. Really, since Tyreek left, this team has been just as much about the defense as it's been about the offense. And you saw them yesterday pitch that shutout, which Andy has not done in the regular season during his time in Kansas City. And wow. Even the Raiders were like, what is happening right now? And that gets me to my takeaway number 4. Pete Carroll, a broken man. The Raiders are the Raiders. All this talk coming into the season, they got Pete Carroll. Oh no, Tom Brady's a part owner. Is he going to give them secrets? I'm pretty sure that Tom Brady could have handed over the Chiefs playbook yesterday to the Raiders, and the Chiefs still would have won. The Raiders are going nowhere. And you look at the AFC West right now. Chargers on the upswing. Broncos. I mean, how about the Broncos yesterday? My goodness, they were down 26-8 to the Giants. They come back and they win the game, which was more about the Giants screwing it up than it is the Broncos coming back to win. But still, Broncos come back, get a huge win yesterday against the Giants. And Pete Carroll is sitting there in his 70s, stuck with the Raiders, and Geno Smith at quarterback, and then he says this after the game.
This was a game that Ned didn't see coming. We had prepared really well. We were tuned into it, and I couldn't imagine that the guys that weren't able to play in this game would make that much of a factor. I just didn't feel that in our preparation. But they're a terrific team. They did everything like they do, and they played really well in all phases and kept us totally at bay. We couldn't make first down and couldn't get off the field, and they just did like they do. And so.
And then takeaway number 5 from yesterday. The Chiefs are looking at this 5-0 homestand. 3-0 homestand, and if they don't get it at this point, that would be a huge disappointment. Kendall Gammon referenced it this morning, but they're playing the Washington Commanders coming up a week from tonight, and that game had a lot of juice in the preseason. Commanders were on the upswing, got to the playoffs last year. Jaden Daniels, star quarterback, he's having a sophomore slump, and now he's banged up. So there is no line for this game yet next week because no one knows what exactly his status is going to be. But whether he plays or not, the Chiefs should win the game. I believe they'll be at least a touchdown favorite going into that game. I saw it was opened at like 5.5, then they took it off the board. So they'll be a solid favorite next week, and if they are not 3-0 on this homestand, it will be a huge disappointment. Huge. And that will lead into the Bills game the following week on the road. 9 o'clock hour is coming up, and boy, we got a lot to get to from the No Kings weekend next. It was a Woodstock reunion over the weekend. Oh, wait, it was another anti-Trump protest is what it actually was. One and the same. That's what it looked like, whether it was in various parts of Kansas City or it was in Seattle or Chicago or New York or Atlanta. That was the demographic that showed up and showed out because of Orange Man Bad and No King or something. Somehow, though, the guy who apparently is a king allowed millions to protest against the king without doing anything, and then also is on day 20 now of a government shutdown, which I'm pretty sure the king would not want to do. But here we are. And if you missed some of this over the weekend, it was exactly what you would have expected. I can't believe Fox 4 goes down the Mill Creek Park, right? And there was a good crowd down there at Mill Creek Park. There wasn't, and we said it last week on Friday, there were too many rallies around Kansas City. There were 3 in Overland Park. There was one in Ottawa. It's just too much. Because some of these in OP, I saw 95th and Metcalf. Some of you sent me some photos on social media. It's like a dozen people out there. Looked like they got dragged out of the nursing home for a few minutes. Show up at the No Kings rally. It was embarrassing. But Mill Creek Park did have a decent crowd. So the local media goes down there on Saturday for the No Kings protest. And here were some of the gems courtesy of Fox 4.
The message behind No Kings, that the power belongs to the people in America.
It'll never be right with the kind of leadership that he's providing at this current time. It's important that we get out and that we let it be known, not just to the president, but to our representatives, Senator Hollies, Senator Schmid, and all the Republican House of Representatives.
I think there was an S on Hollies. And then Eric Schmidt became Eric Schmid. Old Senator Schmid. I thought he was on the show a week ago. I might have called him by the wrong name. Next time I'll call him Old Schmid. And that's the kind of stuff that you had from down on Mill Creek over the weekend. That was it. That was the best and the brightest, I guess, is what you got. I mean, you know how this works, right? If you've seen some of these TV folks lingering around big events like this, they'll talk to anybody. They just want a decent soundbite to put on the news. And when that's one of the ones that you're airing, that tells me that it was slim pickings. Let's continue with Fox 4.
But this is not right. You need to stop it. We have 3 branches of government that are not working. You are a check and balance on this man. You need to do your job.
Well, Republicans are in the House and Republicans are in the Senate. Okay? What do you want them to do? They are doing what they believe they were elected to do. That's exactly what they're doing. And by the way, that third branch, you have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch. There is some belief that the third branch is actually doing too much, is actually being abused politically to try to slow down a duly elected government. So when the lady says there, hey, these 3 branches, they got to be checks and balances. Well, actually, you do have the third branch doing what you want it to do. And there's a legal belief, obviously on one side of the political aisle, that that branch has overstepped its own boundaries, right? Where everything gets stopped by some unelected judge in Virginia that no one could pick out of a lineup if their life depended on it. So between Senator Schmid and Senator Hawley's and the 3 branches got a checks and balances, the whole thing, it's like that's 30 seconds right there from someone on the plaza who has no idea what they're talking about. I mean, not a clue.
Taylor, who represents the local branch of the American Federation of Teachers Union, was at the protest to raise awareness about the state of the public education system.
Essentially, we are watching as the public education system is being crumbled beneath our feet against the will of the voters and against the will of every single person here.
I don't even know what to say.
Being crumbled.
What are we talking about?
Exactly.
What are we talking about? I mean, was I in a coma at some point in the last 9-10 months? Was there a crumbling of the public education system that I'm not aware of by Donald Trump exclusively over the last 9 months? I know that there have been conversations around stopping funding to schools as it relates to things like, allowing boys to compete in girls' sports, things of that nature. I know those conversations have been out there. But I would like to know, because as someone who does this every day, I admit I don't know every story happening in every corner of the country right now. But I might have missed that one. I must have missed that one because Fox 4 wouldn't put somebody on like that who's just stone cold lying about what's going on in public education, right? So these are the people they put on television in Kansas City to talk about why they're there protesting. One lady who can't even name the U.S. senators in Missouri and then is talking about checks and balances, which is actually happening right now. And then you have somebody else just making up like something about the crumbling of public education. It's the best you can do? That's all you got? I mean, at least the guy in Seattle was entertaining when he said this.
Trump's a big.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know. We don't like him. That's the word around here.
Any particular reason why you don't like him?
No clue at all. I'm just going with everybody else saying.
At least that guy. I mean, put him on TV. Find that guy down at Mill Creek Park. At least he's funny. Mm-hmm. At least he's honest. I don't really know why I'm here. I don't really know what's going on. That's what I hear.
You got to wonder about the one that Fox 4 skipped. That they couldn't use and said, no, we can't. That guy can't go on.
I mean, if that's what they put on television here in Kansas City, what did they not put on, to your point there, John?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Seattle at least is honest, right? That's the word around here.
That's the best line. That's the word around here. So now there's a belief that the government shutdown may come to an end because they got through their little, No Kings AARP-sponsored event on Saturday, and they might be willing now, Chuck Schumer in particular, to get back to the business of the people. Here's what Kevin Hassett said this morning. He is an economic advisor to the President of the United States. He was on CNBC's Squawk Box, and here is what he had to say about the possibility of Democrats now caving on their shutdown that is approaching 3 weeks.
Well, first of all, the president has been very active throughout this process, but it's also his position that this is a thing that the Senate needs to work out. A lot of our friends in the Senate have said that it was just bad optics for Democrats to open the government before the No Kings rally, and that now there's a shot that this week things will come together and very quickly the moderate Democrats will move forward and get us an open government, at which point we could negotiate whatever policies they want to negotiate with regular order. Now, I was very pleased to see that my friend Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire, a very sound-minded Democrat, came out and supported opening the government on Friday. So it means that there's sort of cracks in the Schumer armor. I think the Schumer shutdown is likely to end sometime this week. But I can tell you that if the story that we've been basically hearing from moderates that, look, we just can't do it in front of the No Kings rally, if that ends up not being true, then I think that the White House is going to have to look very closely, along with Russ Vought, at stronger measures that we could take to bring him to the table.
I hope he's right. I really do. I hope he's right for the country's sake, even though most people aren't feeling anything involving this shutdown right now. I understand there are actual government employees who are furloughed, who aren't getting paychecks. Like, I understand that. And while the average private citizen's not feeling it right now, people are unnecessarily getting hurt because the Democrats want to use this as a political weapon. Just to reset this again real fast, the shutdown happened when the Republicans said, can we keep the current levels of spending where they're at for another 7 weeks? And Democrats said, no, we want to renegotiate Obamacare subsidies. And Republicans said, no, this is not the time to do that. We can do that when we debate the appropriations bills coming up here the next few weeks. We talk about next year's budget. Now's not the time to do it. We just want to keep the government open, which we've done for you guys and has happened under Joe Biden, has happened under Trump. It's happened under both sides of the aisle over the last several cycles. And Democrats said no. That's it in its most simplistic form, how we got to where we are today. And with each passing day, there is no reason for the Republicans to do anything here. If they had added, let's say, some kind of pork to their continuing resolution, which is what this bill is called, to just keep the government funded at its current levels, I could see Democrats being like, no, take your garbage out of there. We're going to negotiate that out. There's nothing for the Republicans to negotiate out of this bill right now. Just think about it. What are they going to negotiate out of the bill? Policy and legislation that they passed legally through the will of the people back in July with the big, beautiful bill, because that's what this is going back to. There's nothing for them to negotiate out right now. which is something I guess Chuck Schumer never really thought about when he forced this shutdown. So I hope for everyone's sake this thing is over by Friday, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't know how they get themselves out of this thing. If Trump's a king, which is what they were all saying over the weekend, then are you going to cave to the king come Tuesday? What's that say about what Saturday was all about? And that's where they've got themselves right now in a major pickle. 913-408-7957. And Sharice Davids, one of our area Congress members, talking about this as well. And what did she have to say? We have the Sharice Davids audio, as only Sharice Davids can say it. Coming up on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I've got some Sharice Davids audio here coming up in a couple of minutes. Congresswoman on the Kansas side of the state line, 3rd District, of course, talking about this shutdown. We've got you at 913-408-7957. Let's go to Overland Park. That's where Raymond is this morning. What's happening, Raymond? Good morning.
Not much, Mondo. I just wanted to say thank you because, shame to a minute, I used to be a hardcore Democratic. But then listening to you and checking out your sources, you actually converted me to be a Republican. So I have to say thank you.
Is that right, Raymond? Now, when did this happen? How did you find the show?
I found the show a couple years ago when my satellite radio wasn't properly working, and I just turned on 95.7, and all of a sudden I heard your voice, and you were just talking about Donald Trump and all this, about the big, beautiful bill, and I was like, all right, I'm going to check his sources out because, like, shoot, I wasn't happy about Biden, obviously. And then I was checking your sources, and yeah, everything you've been saying and telling us, it's true. So that's why I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, I'm happy to, be here for you, Raymond. Let me ask you, so did you vote for Kamala last year?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, okay. So this happened like a year plus ago, over a year ago.
Yes.
A couple of years back. Okay. All right. So did you vote for Biden back in 2020?
Oh, heck no. I voted for Trump.
So, I mean, I don't want to put holes in your story, but when exactly, if you started listening to the show 2 years ago and, oh, he's gone. I think I asked one too many questions.
You still converted him, Pete. Take the credit.
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to pop my own balloon here, but hey, the call started off with talking about me wanting to always tell the truth. And that's true. I always want to tell the truth. Now, we can have different opinions based on the facts. That's fair. But I don't know. Something tells me I may have popped my own balloon on that one. I'm fine doing it. I mean, that's okay. It's all good. Thank you, Raymond. I should have just hung up on him right after he made his comment. Been like, all right, thanks, Raymond. Have a great day. See you, buddy. But I like to get to know people a little bit. I like to hear a little more. Get under the hood a little bit. Oh, well. All right, speaking of getting under the hood, Sharice Davids speaking for more than 20 seconds. That is getting under the hood in Sharice Davids land. You don't get much more than that out of Sharice. So when she releases a minute-plus long video on the government shutdown, immediately I'm like, okay, let's hear what she's got to say. Sharice Davids over the weekend.
Hey everybody, Rep. Davids here. Look, I know folks are so frustrated right now. I know Kansans are frustrated by the dysfunction in Washington. This government shutdown is having a catastrophic impact on so many people. In fact, I'm sitting here with a couple folks from AFGE. They represent thousands of federal employees who are working on behalf of the American people every single day. And right now, a bunch of them don't know when they're getting their next paycheck. It's unacceptable, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys if you want to share a little bit about what you're...
Sure. There's frustration.
All right, hold on. Wait, stop right there. Pause it. So what are we at? How many seconds was that?
About 35 seconds.
All right, so we got 35 seconds out of Sharice before she turned the mic over to somebody else. So
I was curious when you said it was a minute. I go, is there an actuality? Is there a recorded clip in there? Because surely she didn't go for 60.
No, and she didn't. She only went for 35, and then she turned it over to a couple other people. So tell your party to stop shutting down the government. This whole dog and pony show from Sharice Davids, I'm just down the middle and I'm just here trying to do, what the people of the 3rd District want me to do. It's an act. Okay? Tell me when Sharice Davids has actually ever stood up to her own party in a meaningful way. There are always a handful of bills where people who are in swing districts or more moderate districts will vote across the political aisle. You see that on the Republican side. You see it on the Democrat side. I get that. But I mean a big moment where Sharice Davids has said, leadership, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they are wrong. Find me a meaningful time during her several years in office when that's happened. You can't find it. But then we get videos like this, and it's like, what are we doing here? And once again, it's for the people that aren't paying attention. That's what those videos and who those videos are actually for. And Mark, you have some breaking news on Sharice Davids and what she did over the weekend. I don't think it has anything to do with the No Kings protests. I didn't see her there on social media. Did you?
No, I don't think she was out there,
Okay.
as far as I know.
All right. Smart move on her part. I'll give her credit.
But she was in Johnson County, and she got her COVID booster. So she's keeping everybody healthy, she says.
Now, how do you know? Did you bump into her at CVS or what happened?
I got an email from their guy.
Like an official email, or just his dude said, hey, Mark, in case you're wondering, Sharice got her shot this week?
No, it says for immediate release. So they're making a big deal about it.
So it was a press release?
Yeah, October 20th.
Sharice Davids just came out this morning?
Yeah.
Can you send that to me?
Yes.
Wait, Sharice Davids sent out a press release this morning bragging about getting her COVID booster in 2025?
Yes, and she says everybody needs to get vaccinated.
You can't even say with a straight face.
Well, that and the flu shot. She's getting them both at the same time. So.
Oh, my gosh. 2-for-1 deal. Wow. A press release from a congresswoman in Kansas bragging about getting her COVID booster in the year 2025. Stuff I didn't think I'd see when the week started.
From Rep Davids.
Yeah. Oh, I usually get those emails. I don't know what happened here. Did you send it to me, Mark? Yeah, there it is.
Should be there.
David gets flu shot and COVID booster at Johnson County Clinic. Encourages Kansans to do the same. Yeah, how about no? And that's the nicest thing I'll say to that. My goodness. Our caller of the day, Rockstar, I put him on the hot seat. He nailed it next.
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Victory Monday in Kansas City. Chiefs blasting the Raiders 31-0. We are feeling good this morning. I would be feeling a lot better, though. A lot better. If this Blue Valley teacher, Barb Hart, was back in her job. This is the teacher who got fired last week by the Blue Valley School Board, 25 years in the district, because she was asked to help out with a special needs student who, according to the story, was having a meltdown in the hallway. A kindergarten student having a meltdown in the hallway. Barb Hart, 25 years, knows the special needs kids, gets asked to help out. Apparently puts her hands on the child. Now, we don't know if this means she picked up the child like under his or her armpits, she dragged the child or, yanked the child, or just tried to shift the child by, let's say, holding on to one arm or two arms and taking him into the classroom. But she removed the child from the situation, got this child into a classroom, into a safe space to help this child calm down. For any of us who have had young kids or, like myself, currently have young children, this is the way you do it. This teacher got fired for putting her hands on the kid. The parents of the child have written a letter to Blue Valley saying, get this teacher back in the classroom. Rehire Barb Hart. And they're right. She has no business getting fired. She's lost it all. She's one of the good ones. I tracked her down. I reached out to her over the weekend. We exchanged text messages. She's trying to figure out whether or not she can come on the show and tell more of her story. We hope that that's the case at some point this week. But in the meantime, one of the questions that was asked this morning was whether or not she has union representation. The one time I might be sympathetic to the idea of the teachers union making a fuss and standing up, it would be this situation for Barb Hart. We all wondered whether or not this was something that she had working on her behalf. And thanks to our caller of the day, who had some great information, it turns out that that is not how Blue Valley operates. Here we go.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Paul, what do you got for us?
Man, Pete, you prop me up big time. So, Pete,
don't let me down now, Paul. Don't have a swing and a miss here, all right? I put it on a tee for you.
I hope not. About 10 plus years ago, and maybe even a little bit longer, the Blue Valley teachers resigned their position with the NEA and now have an education association. And the primary uses is for negotiating salaries, benefits, and all that. It doesn't mean there aren't protection, but when you don't see them as loud mouth like the Shining Mission NEA or the Olathe NEA, is because it's just an education association focused around benefits and all that. So it's been a good thing, but it's also probably in this situation not a good thing for Barbara, where you don't have some loudmouth radical teacher fighting for her.
Wow. So the one time you might want to have a big, blustery union rep blowing their horn on your behalf, the one time I actually might be okay with that, Blue Valley actually doesn't have it.
Correct. And it's a good thing because we don't have all the political nuisance and nuance and all the nuts that going on in Olathe and Shining Mission. But also, this is probably a time where it would have been a benefit. And hopefully I hit one out for you.
Paul hit it out of the park. And you know what? Paul won our caller of the day, which gets him absolutely nothing outside of hearing himself back on the show if he's still with us. So way to go there, Paul. Slow clap.
You got to kind of set up something with your friends saying, hey, if I get on the radio, you're buying lunch. That's how it works. That's how you win something. You got to network a little. Right?
Oh, that's a great point there, John. Such a great point. On the text line, Pete, what about her retirement and benefits she built up over 25 years? Don't know the answer. Trying to get to the bottom of it. Those are things we are still trying to figure out, because some of you are saying that she may have been sabotaged by some of her fellow teachers. I don't know the answer. I guess anything is possible at this point, but I don't have the answer as to whether or not this was some kind of internal sabotage of this teacher. But I also know this, there is no video. So right now it's just a he said, she said, or a she said, she said. There is no video on this at all. All we've got is the word of the administration, which wants to see Barb Hart obviously out of a job, and that's why the Blue Valley School Board cowardly fired her last week. Now, speaking of kids, I want to share this graphic that I just came across on social media. We talk a lot about how the birth rate continues to plummet in this country and around the world for that matter, especially in the developed world, right? Well, as it turns out, conservatives actually are not seeing nearly as steep of a decline as progressives are. And this is not being talked about enough. This is the kind of stuff that can change the landscape in this country for generations to come. So this comes from the Financial Times. Birth rates back in 1980, 2.7 kids per woman. This was for progressives and for conservatives. Average number of kids born to people with different political ideologies. Conservatives and progressives were both at 2.7. All right? Currently, conservatives are at 2.4. Number of kids born to people with conservative ideologies. Progressives have dipped below 1.8. So those who lean left or are liberals are having on average 1.7 kids. Conservatives are having 2.4. Now you might say, what's the big deal? Well, that's about 60% more kids being had by conservatives than liberals on average. And you've only seen a dip of 0.3 kids on average over 45 years from those who lean right. From those who lean left, you've seen that number go from 2.7 to 1.7. The number's totally fallen off the cliff. And I've seen this in my own social circles as well. I've seen this with just contemporaries and, going back to people from high school and college and post-college, since I'm in that phase where people have had their kids, they're young, or they're still having children. And it's what I see playing out in real time. People who are leaning right or further to the right are having 2 or 3 kids, sometimes more. Those the other way, either unmarried, if they are married, no kids, maybe 1, maybe you get to 2, maybe. And I know that's anecdotal in my own world. I'm just saying I see this chart playing out in real time in my life right now with the people I know who have had kids or are having kids. You see the photos on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. So you look at how that changes the financial or the political makeup of the country. Not that everybody follows their parents' lead, okay? Everyone, it's not going to happen. But if you are raised in a conservative household with more traditional beliefs, the odds are those children are going to grow up and likely have similar belief systems in place. That's just how it goes. Not a guarantee by any stretch. Trust me, my middle brother and I have very different political opinions. And I know that's true in many families. But there are odds that would suggest that those kids are more likely to have similar beliefs to their parents than not. And that could change. You want to talk 20, 30 years down the road in what the country may look like. If progressives are just not having kids at their own replacement rate for progressives, well, that tells you right there that the political movement could die on the vine unless they basically import voters, which obviously they tried to do the last 4 years. So this is something that we may not be talking enough about. It's the first time I've seen this chart. I'll put it up on Facebook and on Twitter as well. Pete Mundo on KCMO. Find me there. And you can share it and do with this what you want. But that is a fascinating development that I finally have seen a graphic of. And it's birth rates calculated for all adults age 35 plus. Unbelievable numbers. Speaking of unbelievable numbers, We got some of those yesterday out at Arrowhead, and we'll share with you what you need to know at the water cooler on that front to wrap up the show before Keatsman Uncanceled takes over at 10 o'clock.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Look at these numbers. Chiefs 31-0 win over the Raiders yesterday. Chiefs had the same number of first downs as the Raiders ran plays yesterday, 30. That's the fewest plays a team has run in a game since at least 2002. The second fewest plays in a game since 1978. Raiders yesterday against the Chiefs. Fewest plays since 1978 came in 1999 by the Cleveland Browns in their Week 1 game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a dark time in Cleveland. Although I guess for the last 40 years, it's been pretty dark in Cleveland, come to think of it. Outside of that 1 year Baker Mayfield got into the playoffs and they lost here in Kansas City. I mean, that is unbelievable. The Chiefs had touchdown drives of 92, 84, and 94 yards to open up the game. And CBS Sports said that had never happened before in Chiefs history. CBS also noted that Mahomes was the only quarterback since 2000 with 200 pass yards and 3 passing touchdowns on the first 3 drives of a game. Sunday's game was the 427th regular season coaching contest for Andy Reid with the Chiefs and the Eagles. But never before, until Sunday, had Andy Reid been on the sideline for a regular season game in which his team got a shutout victory. And he got it yesterday. The only other time it happened was when the Chiefs shut out the Texans in a 2015 playoff game at Houston. That was it. So yesterday was all about history as the Chiefs demolished the Raiders. Mark was there. The only downside of yesterday is that the Chiefs were too good because his parlay that he gave this audience on Friday came up just a hair short, my man. Just a hair short.
They pulled the starters 1 drive too soon. I think that Rashee Rice would have had 8 more yards if they would have had 1 more drive together.
Mark hit his parlay last week against the Lions, and then he came in this week. He was confident. I bought your parlay. You remember that, Mark?
You did, yep.
In buy, sell, hold. I bought the parlay, and you just missed.
It was a good buy. I mean, we were on track.
We were on track, man. We were texting. You were at the game. I was texting you saying, let's go. So that means now you got to listen at 10:34 for your chance to win $1,000 in our 5K a day giveaway. 10:34. Well, it starts at 8:34, but the next chance to win is at 10:34 during Keatsman, and then 12:34 with Vince Colonese. Text to win keyword to 95819 for your chance at $1,000. Now, the other big question over the weekend, people were asking me on social media, what did John Anthony wear to the No Kings rally around Kansas City this weekend? I posted something about this on social media on Saturday. I said, if you're going to the No Kings protest today, please keep an eye out for newsman John Anthony in his fishnet shirt. And Chuck writes here on Facebook, oh, that's one of the few things he learned in school from Johnny Rollins. Somebody else writes here, cut off the fishnet. Roger writes, hot.
Thanks, Roger.
Mark writes, be safe, John. Vince writes, he should be easy to spot. I don't know about that. I don't think he would have been the only fishnet shirt guy out there.
Yeah, some other dude had, he had the fluorescent yellow too. I was like, come on, man. I got mine at the Pet Shop Boys concert a couple of years ago.
Paul writes here, is John going to be out nude on a unicycle in a Darth Vader mask playing the bagpipes? I said no.
What talent.
Yeah. So, what did you wear, John, on Saturday?
A little too cold for the fishnet crop top, so I just went with a jacket, something modest but chic. It's just in the autumn pastels, I just kind of blended in.
The autumm pastels.
Yeah, jacket. Yeah, chic but modest,
Well, you probably stood out because you looked halfway decent.
Comb my hair, that's for sure. You know how that goes.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, you can't help but just laugh at all this stuff. None of this stuff bothers me. People have a First Amendment right in this country. You can protest whatever you want. You could go out in the street and protest Mark not hitting his parlay because Andy Reid pulled the starters. That's America. None of this bothers me. And in fact, I actually believe that these No Kings protests are good for Donald Trump and good for the Republican Party because the optics of a bunch of washed up hippies wanting to relive Woodstock is not exactly the optics that you want if you are one political party. It did not look good. And listen, Looks are part of the conversation when you talk about the political arena. Like it or not. It's like Trump. There's a line of Trump talking about January 6th, and you talk about bad optics. Obviously, that was bad optics too. And I forget where I read this, but apparently as Trump was watching the January 6th riot unfold, he apparently said, "Where are all the hot women at?" And it's like, bro, they ain't here. Not that the optics of that would have been better if you had like attractive women rioting in the Capitol. I'm not suggesting it would have been a better scene or a better situation. But my point is, on both sides of the political aisle, optics matter. And when the look is basically MSNBC demo viewers, 65 plus, overwhelmingly white, doing dances and singing protest songs, you're done. Yep. That's what it sounded like in Chicago. Brought to you by the AARP. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled is coming up next.